Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, so I welcome you to the course Nursing Research and Statistics, and today we will be studying chi-square test and correlation coefficient. I am Dr. Harmeet Kaur Kang from Chitkara University, Punjab. Let us see what are the learning outcomes of today's lecture. So at the end of the lecture, students will be able to understand the eligibility criteria to apply and how to interpret the chi-square test. Further, we will also be talking about the correlation coefficient, through which you will be understanding that what is the eligibility criteria to apply and how to interpret the correlation coefficient. So let us move forward. Let us talk about testing differences in the proportions. So whenever we have to test that whether two proportions are different, then we go for certain tests. But for that, we should see that the dependent variable should be on the nominal scale. Now I hope you remember that what is the nominal scale. Nominal scale means variable is in the categorical form. For example, gender can be male or female, so there are two categories, or educational level can have 3 or 4 categories. So such type of the variables are on the nominal scale, or you can say those are the categorical variable. So whenever we want to find out that what is the difference in the groups, or what is the difference in the proportions, then we go for these tests. And under these tests we have chi-square test, then Fisher exact test and McNamara test. I'll be discussing chi-square test in depth, but little information I'll be giving you about the Fisher exact test and the McNamara test also. Now let us talk about the chi-square test. Chi-square test was introduced by Karl Pearson. So Karl Pearson introduced the test to distinguish whether an observed set of frequencies differ from a specified frequency distribution. So if we are having two frequency distributions and we try to find out that whether one frequency distribution is differing from the other frequency distribution, then we go for the chi-square test. And the chi-square test uses frequency data to generate the statistics. I have already told you that the variables which we assess, for which we go for the tests of difference of the proportions, the variables should be categorical variable where we have the frequency data. And chi-square test is a statistical test commonly used to test the independence and goodness of it. What is the test of independence? Test of independence determines whether two or more observations across two populations are dependent upon each other. That is, whether one variable helps to estimate the other. So whether two particular variables are dependent upon each other and both the variables are on nominal scale or both the variables are categorical variables, then we can go for tests of independence. Whereas testing for goodness of fit, it determines if an observed frequency distribution matches a theoretical frequency distribution. So when we do the study, whatever data we collect, whatever information we get is the observed frequency distribution. And if we apply the test of goodness of fit, then if observed frequency distribution matches or it is similar to the theoretical frequency distribution, then we can say that it is a good fit for the particular variable. Now let us see what are the conditions for the application of chi-square test. So here the observations recorded and collected are collected on random basis. So that should be taken care that whatever observations we are applying for the chi-square test should be collected on random basis, and all the items in the sample must be independent. Further, the no group should contain very few items. So in every group at least 10 items should be there, and some statisticians take this number as 5, but 10 is regarded as better by most statisticians. And if we add up all the numbers of the groups or cells, then it should be large, at least 50. So that should be taken care whenever you have to apply the chi-square test. Now let us see that where the chi-square test is used. As I have already told you that it is used for two purposes. One is test of goodness of fit, another one is test of independence. And for both types of tests we use the same formula. So this is the formula for chi-square, where chi-square is equal to summation observed minus expected frequency. So O is the observed frequency and E is the expected frequency square. So difference in the observed and expected frequency square divided by the expected frequency. So once again I would like to give you the information that this is the formula where chi-square is summation observed minus expected frequency square divided by expected frequency. When we will be talking about these both tests, I will tell you that how can we calculate the expected frequency. Now first of all, let us talk about the test of goodness of fit. Now test of goodness of fit enable us to see that how well does the assumed theoretical distribution. So assumed theoretical distribution we can assume based upon some theories or universally, or which is the distribution which is considered normal. So we can assume that theoretical distribution, and then we see whether it is fitting to the observed data. Observed data is the data or information which we get through our research study. Then we go for the test of goodness of fit. So when the calculated value of chi-square is less than the table value at certain level of significance, then the fit is considered to be good. So I hope you remember when I talked to you about tests of the significance. So if calculated statistical value is less than the table value at the level of significance, particularly we keep it as 0.05. So if at 0.05 the calculated value is less than table value, or you can say that it is not significant at 0.05, then the fit is considered to be good one. And if the calculated value is greater than the table value, then it means there is significant difference between the observed data and the theoretical distribution, and then we will say that the fit is not considered to be good. So let us discuss the test of goodness of fit based upon one example. So as a teacher, you want to test the perception of students regarding 3 methods of teaching. So you want to see that what is the perception of the students about 3 methods. So of 180 students, 63 rated that method 1 is good, and 45 rated that method 2 is good, and 72 rated method 3 as good. Now you want to see whether these 3 methods are really good fit or not based upon your assumed theoretical distribution. So at the 0.05 level of significance, is there a difference in the perception? So total students are 180, and for one group, or you can say method 1, we have the frequency as 63, and for another we have the frequency as 45, and for the third group we are having the frequency as 72. Now always whenever we have to apply the chi-square test, we use the contingency table. So you can see here we have written the observed frequency. So where for group 1 63, group 2 45, and group 3 72. Now our expectation is that equally all the students will rate the methods as good. So that is our assumption. So this is the assumed theoretical distribution, and we want to find out that whether our assumed theoretical distribution is fitting to our observed frequency distribution or not. So now you might be remembering the formula. So we need to find out the difference in the observed and expected. So these are the difference in the observed and expected, and then we have to square the difference. This is the square, and for each cell we will be finding out the chi-square value. So chi-square value is O minus E observed minus expected square divided by expected. So these are the chi-square values for each cell, and chi-square value for the whole distribution is added. So that is why when I talk to you about the chi-square value formula, then this is the summation of this. So the summation gives this value. It means for this distribution, this is the chi-square statistics which we have calculated. Now let us see what further we have to see. Now we made our null hypothesis that all the three methods are equal, whereas our alternative hypothesis is that at least one is difference, and we have set our alpha or level of significance as 0.05. Now our statistical value of the chi-square is 6.3, and based upon the 6.3 we reject the null hypothesis at significant level 0.05 because it is significant at 0.05. So if it is significant at 0.05, then it means observed frequency distribution is differing from the assumed theoretical distribution. So it means we are rejecting our null hypothesis. So we conclude that at least one proportion is different. And if we see our zone of acceptance and zone of rejection, so you can see that the value is coming in the extreme area. This is, and we have kept our alpha as 0.05. So if the value could have come here, then we could have accepted the null hypothesis, but it is in the rejection zone. So that is why we have rejected the null hypothesis at 0.05. So what does it mean? It means at least one proportion is significantly differing from others. So if it is significantly differing from others, it means this particular observed frequency distribution of three methods is not a good fit. So, or you can say that at least one method of the teaching is differing in terms of the perception of the students. Okay, now let us talk about the chi-square as a test of independence. Now, chi-square test enable us to explain whether or not two attributes are associated. So here now we are talking about two attributes, whether these are associated or not. So it means we are finding out the association between the variables. But here you always need to remember that these both the variables or both the attributes should be categorical variable or should be on the nominal scale. So testing the independence determine whether two or more observations across two populations are dependent on each other, that is whether one variable helps to estimate the other. So whether one particular frequency distribution is dependent upon the other frequency distribution or not. And here again, if our chi-square value, if the calculated value is less than the table value at certain level of significance for a given degree of freedom, we conclude that null hypothesis stands, which means that the two attributes are independent or not associated. So if the calculated value is less than the table value or it is not significant, then we conclude that our null hypothesis stands. Means these two groups are not associated. If these are not significant, then it means those are not associated. But if calculated value is greater than the table value, then we reject the null hypothesis. It means one particular variable is associated with the other variable. So let us see this also with an example. But before that, let us talk about the different steps which we use for the test of independence. So first of all, we determine the hypothesis. So we determine our null hypothesis, where our null hypothesis is that two variables are independent. whereas our alternative hypothesis will be that two variables are associated. And then we calculate the expected frequency, and whenever for test of independence we have to calculate the expected frequency, always it should be row total into column total divided by the grand total. So rows and column, I'll tell you that we always use contingency table where we present our observed frequencies of different groups. So we will have rows and columns, so whatever row total is there is multiplied with the column total divided by the grand total will give you the expected frequency of a particular cell. Then you will be calculating the test statistics, and for each cell you will be calculating the chi-square value, where you will be subtracting the observed minus expected square divided by the expected frequency, and you will be getting the chi-square value of each cell, and then after adding up you will get the chi-square value for that particular frequency distribution. Then you will be determining the degree of freedom. The formula for degree of freedom for the test of independence is degree of freedom is equal to R minus 1, means row total minus row, how many rows are there minus 1, and how many columns are there minus 1. So these are multiplied and you will get the degree of freedom. Then you compare the computed test statistics against a tabled or critical value, and the computed value of the Pearson chi-square statistics is compared with the critical value to determine if the computed value is improbable or not, and the critical tabled values are based upon sampling distribution of Pearson chi-square statistics. So as I have already told you that if the calculated chi-square value is greater than chi-square table value, then we reject the null hypothesis. So it means if chi-square value is significant, then or it is chi-square calculated chi-square value is significant at the level of 0.05, then we reject the null hypothesis. It means these two variables are associated with each other. These are not independent of each other. Now let us see or try to understand with the help of one example. Now suppose a researcher is interested in finding out the knowledge of students regarding prevention of COVID infection. So we have the level of knowledge of the students, and we want to find out so here we have used a questionnaire and sent to the random sample of 90 students. So our sample size is 90, and researcher also collected the information about the educational status of the sample of 90 respondents. So we know that what is the educational status of the respondents, and based upon that we got to know that the undergraduate students distribution about the knowledge is this. So 10 were having fair knowledge, 10 had good knowledge, and 30 had excellent knowledge. And for postgraduate student, 15 had fair knowledge, 15 had good knowledge, and 10 had excellent knowledge. So this is the contingency table. So these are the rows and these are the columns. So this particular is the observed frequency. So we observed it through our study, and this is the row total for undergraduate, this is the row total for postgraduate students, and this is the column total for the knowledge as fair, and column total of good knowledge, and 40 column total of the excellent knowledge, and this n is the total number of subjects in your research sample. Now let's talk about the steps. So you have to determine the hypothesis first of all. So we made our null hypothesis that there is no difference between undergraduate and postgraduate students' knowledge regarding prevention of COVID-19. So we are saying that level of knowledge is not associated with the education status of the students. Whereas our alternative hypothesis is that there is an association of knowledge with the education level of the students. Now we have to calculate the expected frequency. So I told you that how you have to calculate the expected frequency. Expected frequency is calculated by the formula row total plus column total divided by the total number. So for this we have observed the expected frequency. This is the observed frequency and this is the expected frequency for each cell. Then we calculate the expected frequency, and then for each cell then we have to calculate the chi-square value. So for the first cell this is the chi-square value, for second cell this is the chi-square value, third, fourth, fifth and sixth. So once we get the chi-square value of all the cells, then we add up the chi-square value, and after that we have to calculate the degree of freedom. So degree of freedom, I told you that the formula is r minus 1, means total number of rows minus 1 and total number of columns minus 1. So we have 2 rows 2 minus 1 and 3 columns 3 minus 1. So our degree of freedom is 2. So now we have chi-square value, we have degree of freedom. Then we will go and check in the table value that whether our calculated chi-square value at a given degree of freedom is significant at the level of 0.05 or not. And nowadays we don't use the table value because mostly we use the different softwares, and softwares directly give us the p-value or level of significance. So if the p-value is less than 0.05 or 0.05, then we consider it as significant, but if it is more than 0.05, then we do not consider it as significant. So significance value is 0.05 and degree of freedom is 2, and critical table value we have got that it is 5.991, whereas our test statistics value which we have calculated is 11.03. So it means it is exceeding the critical value. So what does it mean? It means that the calculated value at the given degree of freedom is significant at the level of 0.05. It means both the variables are associated with each other. It means level of knowledge is dependent upon the educational status. So we will reject our null hypothesis. So what does it mean? It means there is association of knowledge level with the education, that is undergraduate and postgraduate students differ significantly in the level of knowledge regarding prevention of COVID-19. So it means undergraduate and postgraduate students education level had the effect on the level of the knowledge of the students. So this is about the test of independence, where we get to know whether the two variables are independent from each other or two variables are associated. We use other tests of the proportions also. So particularly in some situations it is not appropriate to calculate the chi-square test, where our distribution may not be eligible to go for the chi-square test. So particularly when the total sample size is small, or when there are cells with zero frequency. So sometimes we are having in the contingency table some cells we may have the zero frequencies, then we cannot go for the chi-square test. Then we go for the Fisher's exact test, and Fisher's exact test can be used to test the significance of difference in proportions only. So if in the contingency table our expected frequency is less than 5, we should not go for chi-square test, then we can go for the Fisher's exact test. And we use the McNemar test when the proportions being compared are from two paired groups. So when we are having two paired groups, particularly when a pre-test post-test design is used to compare the changes in proportion on a dichotomous variable, so it means our group is paired or same group is there, only data we are having for 2 times. So then we should not go for the chi-square test or Fisher exact test. At that time we should go for the McNemar test. So this is about the tests of the proportions. Now let us talk about the another test which is known as the correlation coefficient. So name only says here we try to find out the relationship between two variables. But what are the assumptions? Assumptions are, one is that both the variables should be related pairs, and related pairs means from the same group we should have the variables. And then scales of measurement should be interval or ratio in nature. So please remember that here your data should be continuous. You should have continuous variables, and it should be in the interval or ratio scale, and the data should be normally distributed. Linearity means there should be linear relationship between the variables. So correlation coefficient is used to find out. Here we are having two continuous variables and we try to find out the linear relationship between these two variables. So for example, association between height and weight. So height and weight, we know that these are having some linear relationship. If height is increased, then weight is also increased. So it measures the degree of linear association between two interval scaled variable. Interval scaled variable means we should have the continuous variable where we have exact score, or we have exact weight in meters, and exact weight in kg, and height in meters, and analysis of the relationship between two quantitative outcomes, for example height and weight. So we try to analyze the relationship between these two quantitative outcomes, and for this we go for the correlation coefficient. So you can see this is the studies information about the relationship between height and weight. So if you see, it is following some linear relationship where if height is increasing, then weight is also increasing. Now correlation coefficient gives us two pieces of information. One is it gives us the strength of relationship, that how strong the relationship is. Second thing is it gives us the direction of the relationship. Now what is meant by the strength of relationship? So whenever we calculate the correlation, R lies between -1 and +1, and values near 0 means there is no correlation, and values near plus means very strong correlation. So you should understand that values will always be between -1 to +1. So it can be -1, it can be -0.9, -0.8, -0.7, and then going till 0. Then after 0 it will be going in plus, so plus 0.1, plus 0.2, 0.3, like that. So minus means there is negative relationship, plus means there is positive relationship, and if it is 0, then it means there is no correlation. So if on a linear relationship, -1 gives a strong negative relationship, 0 tells us that there is no relationship between two variables, and +1 tells us that there is a strong positive relationship. Now how do we interpret the value of R? So whenever we have to interpret the value of R, particularly from the strength point of view, you should always see that what is the value of R. So if R is at least 0.8, then it means there is very strong relationship. If the R is lying between 0.6 up to 0.8, then this is moderately strong relationship. And if R is from 0.3 to 0.5, then it is a fair relationship. Then less than 0.3 gives us the information that it is a poor relationship. Now let us talk about the direction. So direction tells us that positive correlation, if it is a positive value, so high value of one variable associated with high value of the other. For example, higher course entrance exam scores are associated with better course grades during the final exam. So we are having two variables, entrance exam scores and the grades. Now always in the positive relationship, you will have this type of linear relationship where if one variable is increasing, the other is also increasing. So this is the positive direction. Then there can be negative correlation also. Negative sign means that the two variables are inversely related. That is, as one variable increases, the other variable decreases. So the example if that increase in body mass is associated with reduced effort tolerance. So here you will get typical this type of graph where you will see that if one value is increasing, the other value is decreasing. So this is a typical graph of the negative correlation, or you can say it gives us the negative direction, that if one variable is increasing, then the other variable is decreasing. So I have already told you that if 0.9 R is a very strong positive association. As one variable rises, so does the other. But if it is minus 0.9 is a very strong negative association. So as one variable rises, the other falls. But R 0.9 has nothing to do with 90%. We cannot say that there is 90% of association. R is just a coefficient. Now for finding out that how much a relationship is there, or how much, if one is increasing, how much the other is increasing, then we go for the coefficient of determination. So Pearson R can be squared, where we get the value as R square to derive a coefficient of determination. So coefficient of determination, or the portion of variability, is one of the variables that can be accounted for by variability in the second variability. So it means if one variable is increasing this much, how the another variable is increasing. So Pearson R can be squared and we can get the coefficient of determination. For example, we are having two variables, depression and CGPA, and Pearson's R shows negative correlation. So our R value is minus 0.5. So if we square it, we will get the R square as 0.25. Now what does it mean? In this example, we can say that 1/4 or 0.25 of variability in CGPA score can be accounted by the depression. So it means if one variable, if depression is increasing or decreasing, then it can cause the 0.25 or 1/4 of variability in CGPA scores. And remaining 75% of variable is other factors such as habit, ability, motivation, course studies, etc. Because we cannot say that this relationship only is causing something to increase or decrease. So a high correlation does not give us the evidence to make a cause and effect statement. So you should always remember that correlation only gives us the information about relationship. It does not tell us about the causality. So there is no cause and effect relationship whenever there is positive or negative correlation. That you should always remember. And the common example given is the high correlation between cost of damage in a fire and number of firemen helping to put out the fire. So for example, we get that there is high correlation that cost of damage is more in a fire if the number of firemen is helping to put out the fire. So what type of meaning we can make out of this? So does it mean that to cut down the cost of damage, the fire department should dispatch less firemen for a fire rescue? So does it mean, or the intensity of fire that is highly correlated with cost of damage and the number of firemen dispatched? So you should understand that we cannot simply say that if cost of damage is more, it is because of number of firemen. No, there can be so many other factors which might be causing the cost of damage to increase, and because of that the number of firemen might have been dispatched more. So always we need to see that this is not directly causing it. Other factors might be causing, and based upon that there can be relationship between the two variables. So high correlation, another example is high correlation between smoking and lung. However, one may argue that both could be caused by stress also, and smoking does not cause the lung cancer. So that also argument can be there. So many a time whenever we are finding the relationship between two variables, there might be so many other variables which might be affecting that relationship. So many a times we go for studying in depth and we try to find out the moderating variables also. But here we are talking only about the undergraduate students statistics, so I am not covering that. But still, whenever you are interpreting the correlation, you have to be very you have to take care that you should not make the wrong interpretation. So in this case, a correlation between lung cancer and smoking may be a result of cause and effect relationship by clinical experience plus common sense. So here you need to see that only we can say that these are means smoking is causing the lung cancer if we are having a clinical experience, or we have conducted a clinical experience, and based upon that we can say. And plus we have to use our common sense also. So to establish this cause and effect relationship, controlled experiments should be performed. So if we are performing the controlled experiments, then only we can say that one particular variable is causing the another variable. But if non-experimental studies are there, in naturally whatever is happening, we are trying to find out the relationship between two variables, then we cannot say that there is cause and effect, but simple relationship we can say that it is having the directionality and how strong the relationship is there. So coefficient of determination and Pearson's R, you should always remember, as I have already told you, that Pearson's R can be squared, and we can say that R square calculation can be done to find out the coefficient of determination. So if R is 0.5, then R square is 0.25, and further if R is 0.7, then R square is 0.49. So what does it mean? So thus, while R is equal to 0.5 versus 0.7 might not look so different in terms of the strength. So when we are talking only about R, we may feel that it is not that different and strength is more or less similar. But when we are calculating the R square, you can say that R is equal to 0.7 accounts for about twice the variability relative to the R is equal to 0.5. So here if R is 0.5 and it is 0.7, it is having so much of difference which is causing the variability in the another variable. So we should be always calculating the coefficient of determination. So let us summarize today's lecture. A chi-square test is a statistical test which is commonly used for testing the independence and goodness of fit. So I told you that chi-square test is particularly used to find out the tests of difference in proportions, and there particularly the variable should be a nominal variable. So the variables which you are finding out should be assessed for only those variables which are categorical variable, where I gave you example of gender. Gender can be categorized as male and female, and for male and female you may have the frequency distribution. So the variables which are in the form of nominal scales, for those variables if you want to find out the test of difference of proportions, then you can go for the chi-square test. And chi-square test is used for testing the independence and goodness of fit. Testing for the goodness of fit determines that if an observed frequency distribution matches a theoretical frequency distribution or not. So where I told you that the observed frequency you can get from the research study, and the theoretical is the assumed frequency distribution, and then we try to find out whether these are matching with each other through the chi-square test. And when the calculated value of the chi-square is less than table value at certain level of significance, the fit is considered to be good one. And if the calculated value is greater than the table value, the fit is not considered to be good. So it means if the chi-square value is significant, then it means the observed frequency distribution is significantly differing from the theoretical frequency distribution, and here you can say that it is not considered to be a good fit. Then another test is the test of independence, where we try to determine that whether two or more observations across two populations are dependent on each other. I give you one example where we tried to find out that whether the demographic variable education is associated with the level of knowledge or not. So for such type of observations we can go for the test of independence, and here if the calculated chi-square is greater than the chi-square tabulated value, then we reject the null hypothesis. It means if the calculated chi-square is significant at the level of 0.05, it means these two variables are associated with each other, and the null hypothesis is always made where it states that the two variables are independent from each other, or these are not associated with each other. And in some situations it is appropriate to calculate a chi-square it is inappropriate to calculate the chi-square statistics, because sometimes the sample size is very small, or when there are the cells with the zero frequency and our expected frequency, if it is less than 5, we should not go for the chi-square test. Then we can go for the Fisher's exact test, which can be used to test the significance of difference of proportions. Then we talked about the correlation coefficient, and correlation coefficient measures the degree of linear association between two interval scaled variables. So here the variables should be either in interval or ratio scale, means these should be the continuous variable, and we try to find out the relationship between these two variables. And the correlation coefficient is denoted by R, and R always lies between -1 to and +1. And values which are near 0 means there is no linear correlation, and values near +1 means very strong relationship. So it gives us the information about the strength of relationship, plus it also gives about the direction of relationship. So direction of relationship is ascertained by positive or negative values of the correlation coefficient. Positive value means there is positive correlation, so if one variable is increasing, then the other variable is also increasing, whereas negative value of the R informs us that if one variable is increasing, the other variable is decreasing. And always remember that a high correlation does not give us the evidence to make a cause and effect relationship. It only tells us that there is a relationship between the two variables. Further, Pearson's R can be squared, and we can get the R square value, and we can find out the correlation of determination. And coefficient of determination tells that what is the portion of variability in one variable that can be accounted for by the variability in the second variable. So if one variable is varying by some amount, how much it can cause the variable in the second variable. So once you get the R value, always try to calculate the R square to find out that how much variability the one variable is causing in the other. So with this, this lecture is over, and this is the bibliography. I have used Pollitt and Beck Nursing Research Principles and Methods, Pollitt and Beck Essentials of Nursing Research, Appraising the Evidence for Nursing Practice, and Mahajan's Methods in Biostatistics for Medical Students and Research Workers. Thank you. So now we will be meeting in the next lecture, lecture number 15. Thank you and have a nice day.